Hello and welcome to, or welcome back to, another episode of Close Enough with your hosts Ray and Jess. Now, this week we are joined by a very, very special guest who you may recognise from a little show called Big Brother. And that's right, it is the winner. It is the one, the only, Richard. Welcome, Richard. Woo! We are so excited to have Richard here today to talk about all things Big Brother, maybe give us a bit, of knowledge that we didn't know about Big Brother beforehand, but we'll see. So we'll start off kind of at the beginning of Big Brother, if that's all right. So what made you apply? What kind of, brought you to...
Let's delve right in.
Show? Yeah.
Well, you won't be surprised to hear that I've been asked this question a lot.
Yes.
And my answer is always a little bit disappointing. I honestly don't know why I applied. What happened was I was watching the last episode of the last series, and right at the end, Will Best, one of the presenters, made an announcement, and he said, if you'd like to be in the next one, go to this web address and send us an application. And maybe that night I'd had a couple of glasses of wine more than what I should have done or something. But on the spur of the moment, I just thought, oh, sod it, why not? Let's just give it a go. So there and then I did it. I mean, normally with something like that, if anything kind of application-wise, I would kind of sit on it for a day or two and come back to it and refine it and tweak it and whatever. But I didn't do anything. I just filled it in on the spot there and then, sent it off, pressed the submit button, and the little bar went ding, your application has been submitted. And I immediately thought, you stupid fool, what have you just gone and done? And then I thought, oh, it's all right. They won't be interested in you. You're far too old. So you can forget about it. They won't want you. So I forgot about it. And it was some considerable time later that an email turned up and they said, you may remember that you applied for this. Could we, if you're still interested, could we have a Zoom call and talk about it a bit more? So that's what we did. And that's how it started.
Here we are.
Yes.
And obviously, in that early stage, when you did have that Zoom call, and when you first went onto those, did you expect to win?
Well, what do you think? In fact, they did ask me partway through. They said, do you think you can win this? And I said to them, I still can't believe it even now, to be honest with you. But I said, well, I think it's an outside chance, to be fair, because it's probably a fair assumption that most people who would watch a program like this are probably going to be at the younger end of the spectrum. Mm-hmm. Certainly it's going to be the younger people who know how to vote on an app. Older people probably won't know how to do that. So the people who would watch it and who would be able to vote are going to be more identifying with the younger housemates and more likely to vote for them. So I said, someone like me to win it, it's going to be an outside chance. Having said that, you just never know, do you? And I remember saying to them, I said, wouldn't it be funny if I did cause an upset and win the thing? And I said, I can make you this promise. I said, if I did win it, I would accept the prize money very graciously.
That's brilliant. Did you go in there with like a game plan or anything?
No, it's impossible. You can't. I mean, if anyone does try to go in there and, I don't know, assume a certain persona or, do this, that, or the other, or certain things, you might be able to sustain it for a little while, I suppose. But if you're in there for 7 weeks, you can't. You've just got to be yourself. And I think to my perception anyway, everyone who was in there was being themselves. And what that basically meant was, initially, when everyone just walked in there and met each other for the first time, it was all smiles and hugs and hello, how nice to see you and all this. And then as time went on and various little character things began to emerge, all genuine though, you see. But if this person's character rubbed up against that one in a negative way, little bits of conflict might arise. And of course, that's what the producers are hoping for, isn't it? They want a bit of their good telly.
Of course.
Yeah, absolutely. No, you go on.
Well, having said that, I think whether it was because of my age, I don't know, but I didn't really end up in any arguments with anyone at all, I don't think. No. I mean, there was a certain lady who had it in for me for some reason, but it didn't really bother me, not like a lot of people kind of assumed it was. But yeah, there it was.
Do you think that your characteristics of how you are set you aside from the other contestants on the show?
Well, I didn't know until the very end, after I'd been announced as the winner and I came out and had that little interview with Will and AJ. I didn't know until that moment that I was the oldest person ever to win it.
Oh, wow.
Really?
Yeah, apparently that's what they told me, or at least the older civilian. There might have been an older celebrity one, and not quite sure. But anyway, certainly the older civilian. And I didn't know that. A couple of them along the way did make comments to the effect of, "Oh, you've got a lot of life experience, and we the younger ones can learn from you." And I'm thinking, gosh, well, if you say so. I mean, in a way, the older you get, if wisdom comes with age, it's simply the awareness that you don't really know anything at all, and you just have to try and look as though you do.
He's winging it. He's winging it through.
Yeah.
Yes, pretty much.
Winging life. So, what was, over the course of the experience, what was the biggest challenge that you faced during your time on the show?
I'm not sure there was one standout big challenge, but there were a number of little things. For example, every now and then Big Brother would say, "Well, housemates, tonight you're going to have a party," and everyone would go, "Eh," and I'd be sitting there thinking, I know what this party's going to be. It's going to be a whole load of pop songs that I've never heard before. And that's exactly what it was. And they all seem to know them. And they're all standing there going, "Da, da, 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 da." And I'm just sitting there with my head in my hands going, I don't know any of these. I didn't even know the singers or anything. So I felt a little bit sort of detached from that. But every now and then they would sort of condescendingly put on something by Vivaldi or Frank Sinatra or something like that, just so I could get up and have a little boogie as well. So that was one thing. I couldn't really join in with the party stuff.
No.
And the other thing that was slightly tricky was, I don't know whether you've noticed, but when you get people who are in their, well, most of them were in their kind of early to mid-20s approximately, and they have this thing that you see, you and I, we're talking now, and at the moment I'm speaking and you're listening. In a moment, you'll be talking and I'll be listening. But in there, they just talk simultaneously, and there might be 3 or 4 of them all talking at each other at the same moment, very loudly. Well, it wasn't shouting, but it was loud talking. And I'm just sitting there, and it just all kind of blurs together. And I just couldn't understand any of it because it was so unclear to me. I can only assume that they could understand each other because they did it all the time. So yes, I couldn't really join in the parties, and some of the group conversations were quite difficult to join in with as well.
Right,
and even when I did try and sort of slot something in, my voice was far too quiet compared to theirs. Having said that, on the other hand, when I was able to have chats with people one-on-one, that was much better. And we had some really nice chats there. And in particular, actually, my visits to the diary room, where that was essentially a one-on-one conversation as well.
Yeah.
And in fact, some of the things I said to him were really quite cheeky, and most of them weren't broadcast, which is a pity because there were some very good moments in the diary room, I got to say. So it was kind of a game of two halves for me.
So you kind of think when you're watching it, you're seeing everything. But obviously, from your perspective, we've not seen everything that happens. Was there anyone in particular in the house that you felt you got on with and were close with from the offset?
Well, not right away, because you need a bit of time to get to know people.
Yeah.
In the very first instance, of course, everyone was smiley and friendly and but as time goes on and you get to know people better, then yes, of course, certain friendships became stronger than others. And I suppose it's true to say that my best buddy in there, as it turned out, was Tate, the Scottish fellow. And he and I had some really nice chats, but I also had some nice conversations with Marcus and Cameron and Jenny. Who else? I can't remember. Believe it or not, I even had 1 or 2 nice moments with Caroline. See, now that was a funny thing. You see, everyone thought she was bullying me, and she kind of was. But firstly, I didn't mind. And secondly, she tended to only do it when all the group of everybody was together. And that's when she'd say, "Oh, you're boring, you haven't got a life," and all this kind of thing. But when it was just she and I, we actually had some quite nice chats, and those didn't get shown. You see.
Oh, really?
Yeah, and of course, what is shown is basically a 45-minute program. After you've factored in the ad breaks, 1 hour, it's 45 minutes or so, which is 24 hours of editing down into 45 minutes, and they've got to do it quickly. But it's not even that. It's 24 hours of filming in each of the different rooms in the house. So that's 6 different locations, 24 hours in each one, down into 45 minutes. So, of course, it's heavily edited. Heavily.
Yeah. And do you think
telly would it?
Yeah, no, watching 24 hours. But do you think that the Big Brother editors kind of edit it to play on a narrative, like you mentioned there, that actually you and Caroline did have some good conversations, but when you watch the show and when you look at anything on social media, the big narrative is, you know, enemies, but actually, was that not necessarily the case?
Well, I have since watched it all back, and
Right.
I'm not unhappy with how it was edited, really. It was all okay. And there are little moments where you catch a glimpse of it. For example, one of the little quotes I made that suddenly, you know, went viral and everyone was talking about it was when Caroline said to me in the face-to-face nominations, "Oh, you're so boring and you hide behind your Bible." And then afterwards, it was all, she came over to my Caroline coming out. I said, "Just for clarity, I'm not hiding behind my Bible. I'm standing on it foursquare." Now, she actually gave me a little fist pump at that point. She you see. And then another time in one of the parties, she was wearing a big sort of, almost like a sort of caftan thing. And she looked like Norma Desmond out of Sunset Boulevard. And everyone was dancing around. And so I took her in my arms and I said, "Come on, Norma Desmond." And so we did a few twirls around the floor. And it was, you know, it was all right. So all these little barbed comments and stuff, it was much more pantomime than a lot of people thought. And by the end, they were saying, you know, you and Caroline should do pantomime together. And I remember saying, "That's alarmingly plausible, actually. I don't know whether I could face it, but still, you know, so far we haven't had any offers."
There's still time.
Well, there's still time. Christmas time this year.
Well, who knows? Yeah.
And whilst we're talking about the editing of the show, is there anything that kind of, when you came out, it surprised you that it hadn't made into the show?
Not really, because before we went in, we were basically advised of what I've already said to you just now. They kind of said that in the past, certain housemates had complained, you know, "Why didn't you say this? Include this thing in, because it was such a good thing to happen," and blah, blah, blah. And of course, they're just so limited by time constraints and everything. Personally, I didn't feel... I thought I did okay screen time wise, and you know, all the things I said and did. I thought it was all fairly balanced. Whether any of the other housemates felt differently, I honestly don't know.
Fair enough.
Fair enough, yeah. Did being the older one of the group, you know, do you think it hindered you in any way at all?
Well, like I say, only that I couldn't really join in with the parties, and I couldn't really join in with some of the conversations. Oh, and also, they've got all this new vocabulary now, haven't they, these youngsters? So words that I'd heard before, slay and sick, and words like that, and also the phrase that they're coming out with every other minute. You think, like, "Do you know what I mean? Do you know what I mean? I'm going to have some breakfast. Do you know what I mean? Yes, I do know what breakfast is. Yeah, I'm going to go and get in the jacuzzi. Do you know what I mean? Yes, I do know what you mean."
Oh, no, I do think, yeah, it is... it is a strange vocabulary. When you actually sit back and observe it, it's like, well, "Do you know what I mean?" is a weird saying, but I must hold my hands up and say I do say that quite a lot.
He does. Yeah.
Do you think that Big Brother has changed your perspective on reality TV, or did you watch a lot of reality TV before you went in?
Well, I came to Big Brother itself quite late. Some people who were there, so they'd watched every series since it started or whatever.
Really?
I've only watched the last 2 or 3 or so. And as I say, it wasn't particularly in the forefront of my mind, as evidenced by the fact that when they said, "If you want to apply, come on it," and I just kind of went, "Oh, all right, let's give it a try then." And it was as sort of unexciting as that. And in fact, when I got in there, you remember Sam, he, who I think was about 25 or 26, anyway, he said he's been dreaming of getting on there since he was 8 years old. And I thought, right.
Really?
And then somebody else, who was it, Jenny? Maybe not Jenny. Anyway, somebody else said that they'd applied for the previous 2 series and not got on, but this time they had done. And I'm keeping very quiet at this point because I'm thinking, wow, I just did it on a whim. And even then, I wished I hadn't. And all along the way, any number of times when I just thought, do I really want to do this? Do I really want to go ahead with this? And I suppose the most striking moment was when I turned up at the first in-person audition, and it was at some kind of university building in North London somewhere. And so I was loitering around in the sort of reception area, and people were gradually arriving, and I was looking around at people, and I'm thinking, I bet they're here for the same reason that I am. And some of them, as you can imagine, were dressed really freakily and looked extraordinary. And I'm standing there thinking, again, shall I just turn around and go home? Shall I just not bother? No one will know. I can just go home. No one's going to think twice. I just didn't turn up. And I thought, well, for goodness sake, you're here now, and it isn't going to commit you to anything. Even if you get through the audition, you can still say no. So look, let's just go ahead and do it. But and that happened. That was in my mind. I can't tell you how many times I almost backed out of it. And gosh, I'd have missed out on if I had. But there you go.
Well, yeah. Everything happens for a reason. You would have missed out on all of this.
Yeah. Do you think there are particular qualities that they look out for then for what they want on Big Brother?
I'm sure there must be. I'm not party to what those are, but I think even more important than individual qualities or characteristics, they must be thinking, how will this character interact with that one?
Yeah.
Particularly with regard to things like political views, religious beliefs, the kind of things where people do have different opinions on things. And what they're hoping is that two people with opposing views will butt heads a lot. But only within certain limitations, of course, and that's partly why we lost George quite early on, of course, because he had his opinions, and fair play to that, but he was perhaps a little insensitive sometimes in how he delivered them, and in the end he was asked to leave.
Yeah.
Your faith was talked about during the show. How much did it actually help you to stay grounded in the house? Because obviously there's a lot going on. There's so many different people, different characters there. How did that help you?
Right, well, before we went in, we were given this book of rules and regulations, and one of the things it said was you're not allowed to take in any books or magazines or any reading material whatsoever, with the exception of a religious text. That's the phrase they use. And so I said to them, okay, I'd like to take it. I didn't want to take in my big Bible because I thought it might look a bit intimidating or whatever. And, so I actually took in a little paperback book about that big of Psalms, just the Psalms. And it just so happened, this wasn't part of the plan at all, but it just so happened I tended to wake up hours before everybody else. So I would get up, sort of stagger around in the dark, sort myself out, and go through into the bathroom area where the lights were always on, and I would sit there in the morning and read my Psalms and have my shower and do all that thing. And I wasn't, at least I don't think I was being in any way overt, although Jenny rather sweetly called me a Bible basher just for sitting there reading. But anyway, of course, while I'm sitting there, from time to time, other housemates would come in for a little middle of the night bathroom break or whatever, and they'd see me sitting there. And so, although I wasn't telling anybody, it gradually became known that I was sitting there doing this. And then that's when the questions started. So first of all, Tate approached me and he says, I've been reading the book of Proverbs. It's a self-help book, isn't it? And I said, well, I mean, that's one way of looking at it, I suppose. And so he started asking me more questions, and then he requested a house Bible from the Big Brother team, which he got. And he was saying, where do I start? Tell me what to start with this. It's a big book. I don't know where to start. So I just guided him through that a bit. And then Marcus started showing an interest. And then Emily came halfway through, and she was interested as well. And even Caroline read it once or twice, believe it or not. So it all just sort of gathered its own momentum. And when I was asked about this in the diary room on one occasion, where they were starting to sort of just say, it's all well and good, all this Bible reading, but, we're trying to make a TV program, and if all we're seeing is people with their heads stuck in a book, it doesn't make very interesting viewing. And I said, well, I get that, but at the same time, in your own blurb, you describe this whole show as a social experiment where you just take 16 strangers, throw them into a closed space and see what happens. And I don't think in the series that I've seen that anything quite like this has happened before. And sure, that should be quite fascinating.
Yeah, and, I don't think there's ever been anything like this before, though, on one of these, is there?
Well, I remember a couple of series ago, there was a fellow called Schengen or something, a black guy, and he had a Bible. I remember that. And I saw him reading it occasionally, on the series. But yeah, I don't remember anything where it kind of got so many people interested.
Yeah.
And there was one night where something happened that they didn't show. Do you remember halfway through, Farida arrived, the Muslim lady, and she was kind of holding court one evening, giving quite a detailed description of some quite some stuff about her religion that was quite dark, actually, and all the housemates. I wasn't party to. I was already in bed, but I was just across the room, and I could hear it all going on, and I could see they were getting disturbed by this. And I sort of made a mental note who they all were around the table. And I thought, I'm going to go and have a little chat with each of them tomorrow, just to see if they're okay and haven't been too upset by any of this stuff. But when this conversation eventually ended, 3 of them just came over and sat down on my bed and said, what did you think about that? And I said, well, and I tried to put them at their ease. So it was quite interesting that when they felt a bit unsettled by some of this dark stuff that was being talked about, that they came to me for a bit of reassurance, which was A, extraordinary, and B, I was, I just felt kind of good inside that I could calm their fears a little bit.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, it's nice to be considered kind of an endearing person like that, isn't it? So, and I think that the whole nation then, cottoned on to that and saw that side of you. And then talking a little bit about, the behind the scenes and the kind of stuff that we don't necessarily see on the telly. What is talk us through just a typical day in filming, from waking up to going to bed.
I'm not sure there is a typical day, to be honest. Well, if it wasn't a task day, then, and assuming that I was up before everybody else, which I usually was, sometimes I would whisper into my microphone while they're all still asleep, and I'd say, "Big brother, I really need my coffee. Can you put the shutter up for me?" And sometimes they would, and sometimes they wouldn't. And the shutter would go up sometimes, and I'd go through into the kitchen. Well, I'd sort myself out, make my coffee, have my breakfast, and quite often I'd done all of that before the sleeping beauties were awake. And when the lights did come on and the alarms went to wake everybody up, the first task of the day is we had to go around and change our batteries in the microphones. You had to change it first thing in the morning, last thing at night, every day. Right. And they'd say, would one housemate go and collect the batteries from the hatch and make sure that everyone's got them and switched on? Well, because I was the one who was up first, that kind of became my job in the house, which was actually quite good fun. So I'm tiptoeing around all these sleeping people in their beds, finding their microphone and taking this one out and putting the other battery in and everything. Apart from Jenny, because Jenny, she had this habit of sleeping with her microphone under her. I don't know how she did that. I wasn't going to go groping under there, so she just had to wait. So there was that, but that didn't always happen. You see, it depended whether they put the shutter up or not. On a task day, they absolutely did not put the shutter up because they wanted to make sure that everyone was up and out of bed before the task began.
Yeah,
and each task was very different, of course. And then when you mix into that all of the many conversations that you have with different people at different times, plus the diary room, plus all the cooking and the making cups of tea and stuff, there wasn't really a typical day.
No.
Fair enough. You need a bit of variety, don't you? When you're stuck in there, you don't know what's going on in the outside world either. So it's not as if you're catching up on anything or even just talking to family and friends. You have to make your day up as you go along, don't you? And you want a bit of variety.
Yeah,
and also the other thing that made it not a typical day was, of course, that once a week we had to do the nominations. Which
yes,
was
yeah,
horrible.
of course.
But anyway, that's all part of the fun.
What was it like to go from coming from this world around you with family and friends, going in there, and then you've got to make relationships fast? Because if you don't have any relationships, it's a pretty lonely experience. So what was it like to kind of build up relationships with other people so quickly in such a tight proximity?
Well, for me personally, it was okay. It wasn't really difficult. It might be due to the fact that the work that I do involves me meeting a lot of people anyway. So I'm quite used to sort of looking at someone's face that I've never seen before and being friendly, going, "Hello, what's your name? Where are you from?" I mean, because when you meet someone the first time, basically that initial conversation has 3 questions: who are you? Where do you come from? What do you do? That's basically it. And even though I say it myself, I've got reasonably slick at navigating through that. So it was fine, really. I was. Some people have said to me, "Oh, did you find out anything? Did you discover anything about yourself in this experience?" All these kind of deep, soul-searching questions. And the answer is not really. But it was nice to find that I could still relate to people some of whom were only about a third of my age, and I could still share a dormitory bedroom with them and share a bathroom and have meals with them. I remember saying to Tasia, if you remember Tasia, at one point I said to her, Tasia, do you realise that in 2 years' time you'll be a third of my age? So yeah, it wasn't just kind of being able to chat to people and stuff. It wasn't an issue, except for what I already told you a minute ago about the fact that some of their vocabulary I didn't know. I couldn't join in with conversations when they're all talking at once, and also I didn't know a lot of their music. But then they didn't know a lot of mine, so I suppose that's fair, isn't it?
Yeah.
You got through it.
Yeah, you came out on the other side.
Because you got through it, obviously I've got to ask the question, what was the most exciting thing since Big Brother that you've done? Has anything happened since?
Not much, to be honest. But it's because I do have an agent now. Hurrah!
Oh.
Yes, well, because Big Brother finished. Was it the end of November, I think, or early December? I can't remember. Somewhere around there. And I said to him, okay, can we maybe build on this somehow? And he said, I've already been talking to some people, but of course it's Christmas coming and New Year, and they all stop. And he said, and even after New Year, they don't come back straight away. It's going to be at least the second week. Now, we've since had several conversations. He has given me quite an impressive list of people he's been talking to. So I'm sitting with fingers crossed to see whether anything is going to emerge. But for now, I'm just playing the waiting game. However, having said that, when I first left the show, for the first 2 weeks, it was absolutely manic. There was a flurry of media interviews and millions of messages to reply to, and it was really manic. And I did catch a real glimpse of the fact that for people who really are celebrities, people who are in the public eye all the time, I can well see why they've just got to have a secretary or a PA or something, because if they didn't, they'd never have a minute to themselves. And for 2 weeks I didn't either, and I could see that it was frantic. Yeah, but it's all settled down now, I'm glad to say.
Yeah, and are there any kind of jobs or anything that you'd like to kind of manifest for this year, maybe? Well,
I've always liked the pizzazz, if that's the right word, the presentation side of things. I mean, I can remember I was only about 5 or 6 years old, sitting on the floor at the lounge at home, and Bruce Forsyth came on doing the Generation Game. And he just walked out and goes, good evening, ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the show, blah, 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 blah. And I just sat there going, I want to do that.
Yeah.
And it's been there ever since. It's never gone away. And when I entered the Big Brother house, you may recall I didn't enter straight away. I wasn't one of the first ones in. So I missed the live launch. I missed all the flashing laser lights and all of that. I just crept in through a side door the next morning. And so all the way through, I was thinking, gosh, I hope I don't get a back door eviction, because they just creep out through a side door as well. Whenever I do go, I hope it can be out through the main thing so I can walk down that catwalk and we get all
Yeah.
Well, as it happens, that is exactly what did happen. And because I won it, the fireworks as well. So it was brilliant. And I mean, it was a once in a lifetime. That had never happened to me before. It's unlikely anything like that's going to happen again. But I made sure I enjoyed the moment. It was really excellent.
Yeah.
You never know. You never know what 2026 will bring you. You never have a clue.
No.
Well, I'm open to offers.
Yes, well. Hit him up. Get the agent on the phone. Yeah.
Did you spend your money? Has it all gone, or have you still got some? What have you done?
I've been asked that a lot as well. First of all, it took a long time to come through. All the media things were saying, Richard Storry won Big Brother and went home with £100,000. No, he didn't. He went home with a free Uber ride. It took a long time, and in fact, it took such a long time, I wondered if they'd forgotten. But it did come through, and I did. Boring but sensible things, at least to start with. So I paid my income tax, I cleared my credit card, this kind of thing. In terms of actual specifics about what I'm going to do with the rest, well, I'm not the sort of fellow who's going to rush out and buy a Rolls Royce or or an original Leonardo da Vinci or anything like that. I'm not actually that much of a materialistic person. The sort of thing that floats my boat is projects. I like investing in actual things that take things forward. And there's a very good friend of mine, an up-and-coming classical guitarist, for whom I've written many pieces. And he's performed a lot of them in concert already, and very ably as well. And his next album, he wants to record an entire album of music that I've written for him. So it's going to be all my stuff.
Oh, wow.
Wow.
So a little bit of the money will go into that. Yeah.
Yeah.
Brilliant.
Amazing. Well, I can't wait to hear that. So, you know, make sure you talk about it so we
Tune in.
to that. Yeah. So do you think that anything kind of will change for you in the long run? You know, would you like to take up a career in TV or reality TV? And most importantly, do you enjoy it? Like, do you enjoy doing these podcasts? Be brutally honest. You know, has it lived up to kind of what you said you wanted it to be when you were 4 or 5 when you were younger watching Bruce Forsyth?
Well, I've certainly enjoyed it thus far. Although thus far I haven't yet had what I hope might happen. I mean, I would love to host my own chat show or my own radio show or a game show or front a documentary or something like that. That hasn't happened yet. But my agent's on the case. In fact, here's a little bit of a scoop for you. Yesterday, I met up with Jordan Sanger, who won Big Brother 2 series ago.
Oh, wow.
Oh, really?
Yeah, and we had a little chat just, you know, about whether there might be any mileage in having 2 Big Brother winners pairing up to do some co-presenting. There might be some mileage in that. You know, we'll see. We'll see what happens. And you just have to keep throwing stuff at the wall, and hopefully something will stick eventually.
Yeah,
yes, definitely. Yeah, definitely. Well, I'd love a chat show from Richard.
Yeah. What kind of people would you like to interview?
Well, I mean, that's an open question, isn't it? I love just chatting to anybody. I did suggest to the agent, a little bit tongue-in-cheek, I don't know, it's probably a stupid idea, but it appeals all the same. And that is that given that there's all these, you know, famous people out there, that people who are, you know, in their 20s, they think are like megastars, but I've never heard of them. I wonder whether there might be any mileage in my presenting a chat show where I say, and now here is, and I say a name of somebody, Dua Lipa, and on they come, and everyone goes, and I'm thinking, no, I don't know who you are. So we'll say, oh, you're a singer, are you? Oh, you've had 17 number ones. That's great. Well, all the best with your future career. You know, it might be quite funny that I'm this doddery old so-and-so who doesn't know anything about these megastars who are sitting there with me. That might be funny. I don't know. Yeah. Anyway, we'll see.
So, Richard, now that you have done Big Brother and you've got that kind of experience behind you, what advice would you give to somebody who's looking to apply for the TV show or who has applied for the TV show and is going to go on it?
Whoa. I suppose it's what everybody says, isn't it, really? Just be yourself. I mean, don't try and second guess what they're looking for. Because if you are who they're looking for, then you are who they're looking for, and you'll be there. If you second guess and you put on an act, well, it's difficult to sustain the act. And even if you do manage to persuade them that that's who you are, when you get in there with cameras rolling all the time, the veneer will peel back very quickly. So just be your own normal, natural self. I mean, certainly that's what I did. And I'm sure that's what everybody did. I don't think anybody was putting on a show, really. I mean, you can't. It's impossible to do it for all that length of time. I can't imagine anyone. I mean, can you imagine if you're a naturally quiet person, but you feel that you ought to be more extrovert? You can't sustain that for 7 weeks, can you? I mean, no.
And I do think that what you just said right there is right. I mean, I've got no experience in reality TV whatsoever, but
I do.
You know, Jess was on Come Dine with me a couple of
years ago.
Me and
Richard do.
And I do think she's, you know, the best reality TV personality out there.
Well, clearly not, because I haven't won
yeah.
for us.
Because we are talking to the best reality TV personality out there. But I don't think you can predict, even as an audience, not an audience member, but even as a viewer at home, what type of person is going to win each year, because everybody is so different on any TV show. So I really do think, like you say, there's no point in going in there with an agenda.
No, you're right. I don't think anybody knew. And another thing that did surprise me, although I would have known if, of course, is that while we're all in there, people are going into the bookies and placing bets on who they think is going to win.
Yeah.
And I found afterwards that at the beginning, when there was all of us were in there, the bookies had me kind of in the middle somewhere. I wasn't at the bottom. I wasn't going to be first out. Wasn't going to win it according to them, but somewhere in the middle. And as time went on, my odds improved. And the pivotal moment was, if you recall, about halfway through when there was a double eviction one night, and there were three of us up for it. It was Farida, Zila, and me. And Farida was voted out first, and it was just Zila and me. And I thought, wow, it could be either of us. And when he went, I was very surprised. I think that one pinpoint moment was the most tense for me out of the whole series. Once I got past that, however, and then afterwards, when I came out of the house and looked back over the thing, I remember they had some commentary from William Hill bookmakers, or what's the other one? Oh, Coral. Anyway, so some spokesman from there said, "Oh, now that Zila's gone, there's been a surge of support for Richard, and we think he's going to win." Well, of course, I didn't know any of that while I was in there, but apparently by the end, they had me as odds on 5-1 odds on favourite, not just 5-1, 5-1 on,
Wow.
which was probably so they all thought I was going to win, but I didn't know that. So so the point is, your question, how can anyone predict it? I don't think anyone can, and there are so many moving parts. I think Jenny actually revealed an interesting thing when she was talking to Caroline. And she said to her, Caroline, because you won't stop, digging your claws into Richard, he's going to get a sympathy vote. He's probably going to win because you're being nasty to him. And she's going, oh, no, that is... Anyway, personally, I think there may well have been an element of that. I hope that wasn't the only reason people voted for me. But
I don't think it was. No, definitely not.
No, absolutely not.
For the viewers who, watched day in, day out, week in, week out, do you have a message for the people who voted for you?
Absolutely, I do. I'm hugely grateful to every single person who voted for me. I've since had messages from people who said, you're allowed to vote 5 times each time. And so many people who said, you had all my votes every single time. People have told me that I was their winner, their favourite from the first day I walked in there, which I find extraordinary, but hugely grateful, and bearing in mind that I thought I was going to be kicked out within the first week or two, to have lasted longer than that at all, it's fantastic. But for it to turn out as it did, it's just astonishing. I still can't believe it. I can't believe I applied for it in the first place. I can't believe I stuck with it through all the auditions. I can't believe they even took me onto it at all. And I can't believe I lasted longer than 2 weeks, and I certainly can't believe I won it, even though I have done. It just seems, I don't know, like a dream, really.
Congratulations. You obviously deserved it. Because you are
so deserving.
Such a lovely person. You've been fantastic to talk to today as well. We are so grateful that you've come on. And it's just lovely to hear your experience firsthand. What do your family and friends think about it?
Well, my friends were delighted. My son over in America, he was thrilled to bits to know that I was going on TV. But we speak on the phone most days, you see. And so when I said to him, but this means that we're not going to be able to speak on the phone for all the time in there. And that put a little bit of a damper on it. But anyway, as soon as I came out of the thing, I called him straight away. And in fact, it was his, they showed, it was his, what was it? The episode with the letters from home. The letter was... Yeah. And that was lovely. And then at the final night where I did leave the house, they had a video of him that they played in the Late and Live. I don't know whether you saw that bit. And DJ said, "Now, Richard, here's your son." And just for one moment, I thought he was actually going to come walking out of there. But no, they got a bit of a video that they'd asked him to make.
This is your life. Everyone comes out at once.
Yeah. That would have been good TV.
Like Long Lost Families.
Yeah. We should be on that, right?
Yeah. I really do think you are the most deserving winner, and I think that bit at the end where it was just you and Elsa, it was such a, I don't know, just a beautiful thing to watch when you just kind of looked at each other and gave each other a little smile, and then they said, that you won, and then you're off out into that madness. But it was a really, lovely thing to watch. So congratulations.
Yes, congratulations.
It was certainly an experience unlike anything I've ever done, and it's something nice to put on the CV, isn't it?
Yeah. And let's just say you'll never lose a game of 2 truths and 1 lie ever again in your life.
Well, I don't think I'll ever play it again, certainly.
No.
Well, that is all we've got time for this week. So thank you so much for tuning in. Thank you so much to Richard for joining us. Please make sure you like, follow and subscribe, and you just never know who we're going to interview next. Thank you. Bye.
Bye.